In today's video, I'm going to attempt to take on the Moon Lord, but every single enemy that I kill will drop a completely random item. That means that enemies could drop anything from a stupid piece of dirt to the best weapon in the game. With that being said, will I be able to defeat the Moon Lord and beat Terraria, or will I fail at the task and have to give up? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. As soon as I spawned in, I immediately opened my treasure bag from the Terraria Calamity Mod and began my adventure. I started off by first going out to deforest the whole entire world to start an inevitable turf war with the Lorax, because he's just a little orange rat. After deforesting enough trees to make Mr. Beast cry, I decided to build a starter house. I did this so early on because I wanted to keep my inventory clean and I wanted to organize all of the random items I knew I was going to get. However, while I was in the middle of building my house, I was attacked by a purple slime, the first enemy of the series. Luckily, we got insane luck and it dropped one of the best starter weapons I could have asked for. With my house completed and an OP weapon at hand, I was feeling pretty confident, so I decided to activate Revenge Mode, Death Mode, and Malice Mode, all of which would serve to make the playthrough so much harder. Additionally, just to make this challenge more interesting, I'm only going to use loot, armor, and weapons acquired by killing mobs. That means no mining, no crafting armor, we're going off of pure RNG. This included chests, so I would only be taking potions from inside of them and nothing else. As I worked my way over to the left side of the world, I killed a wolfram drone, which dropped probably one of the most busted items in the entire game. It's an accessory that makes us nearly invincible. However, I didn't decide to use this until absolutely necessary. When exploring through the Crimson, I found an enemy which, when killed, summons a pre-hard mode boss from the Calamity Mod. Feeling confident, I decided to try and fight it. Unfortunately, my gaming chair just wasn't good enough, and I got my cheeks clapped, career ended, and absolutely embarrassed in a single hit. However, one death wasn't going to stop me. Filled with gamer rage, I decided that I needed to get some more health, because having 100 health for boss fights just wasn't going to cut it. So I headed off into the caves for the very first time. While in the caves, I found a skeleton statue which allowed me to infinitely spawn skeletons. So I totally didn't decide to absolutely abuse the shit out of it and spawn as many skeletons as I could before heading up to the surface. Yeah, so I pretty much just made my house look like a dick. After essentially wasting the whole night building my amazing house, I decided it was finally time for a boss fight. So I decided to challenge the King Slime. And I thought it would be absolutely hilarious if I killed him with my pickaxe, but I died. However, even though I died, the boss fight was still amazing because every single one of the little blue slimes that I killed dropped an item. And we got tons of great loot, including this awesome spinny weapon that does like 500 damage. It's absolutely broken. And after clearing out my inventory, I decided to challenge the King Slime again because I wasn't gonna let some stupid blue blob clap me up like that. And using our new weapons, I absolutely obliterated that sorry excuse for a slime boss. Like I just won an Oscar and someone made a G.I. Jane joke about my wife. But I wasn't gonna stop there. I wanted to really make sure that that slime got my wife's name out of its mouth. So I went ahead and fought it again. I totally didn't just want extra loot, but that's besides the point here. Feeling confident as I was now completely overpowered, I worked my way to the jungle, broke into the Queen Bee's house, FBI, open up! And proceeded to throw swords at her. Surprisingly, she lasted longer than 3 seconds, but still, she was no match for my overpowered modded weapons. Following, I decided to quickly take out the Eye of Cthulhu because he's just a filthy casual. And to no one's surprise, he disappeared faster than my dad when he found out my mom was pregnant. Next up on the chopping block was the smooth Brain of Cthulhu, who was just no match for my big brain strategies. I then went to have a civil conversation with this old ass boomer I found in a dungeon. But then he exploded, and for some reason he had 4 arms? Last time I checked, Skeletron didn't have 4 arms. Nonetheless, like the meteor that killed all the original dinosaurs, I bitch slapped that boomer back to his creator before walking into his basement that was full of little kids. I decided to stay in Skeletron's dungeon for a little while as the spawn rates were extremely high, so I could get even more random items and overpowered gear. I also got this epic pimp car mount, so I drove around clapping cheeks in Skeletron's dungeon like the absolute turbo gamer that I am. Unfortunately, while I was driving around, I got distracted by an ad for hot moms in my area, and I crashed into a wall. What the shit? Are you kidding me? I wasn't even that bad. Are you serious right now? I spawned down here.
2 hours later.
Anyways, since I'm in the underworld, I decided to fight the Wall of Flesh, who conveniently spawned without me even having to sacrifice the guide. So I think the game is trying to tell me something. Maybe that I need to get some bitches. Nonetheless, I went on to completely obliterate the Wall of Flesh with some of the new weapons I had got from killing enemies in Skeletron's dungeon, finally putting us in hard mode. Once in hard mode, the first thing that I did was upgrade our wiener house. For some reason, it just felt right. After finishing the perfect house, I then went to explore the underground hollow in search of souls of light, and then additionally into the underground crimson in search of souls of night, both of which would be needed to make the spawners required to fight the mechanical bosses. Unfortunately, the only thing I couldn't find while down in the mines was who the hell asked. Now back up on the surface, with all 3 mech spawners in hand, all that was left was to wait till night. The first of the 3 mech bosses was the Destroyer, who I swear was bigger than usual. Probably too big. Who would ever want to fight a boss that big? He probably has a terrible personality. Nonetheless, I started dominance and showed him who the true Destroyer was, as I clapped him so hard he rage quit life. Up next was the old ass boomer again.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
However, just like last time, we sent that old man a one-way trip to his funeral, and this time he won't be returning. Last up were the twins, and let's just say we were able to kill 2 birds with 1 bow. With all 3 mech bosses dead, the jungle grew restless, so I made my way over to the jungle to fight the literal living embodiment of that vegan teacher. Being the supreme intellectual that I am, I used an item that had dropped earlier to spawn her above ground. However, this was a massive mistake, as I believe she could smell a steak that I had cooked earlier, which made her very upsetty spaghetti, and she nearly killed me. But my meat-loving instincts were just too much for her. With Plantera dead, I went full Indiana Jones mode as I explored through Golem's dungeon, which I totally just didn't mine through the side of with my overpowered pickaxe. Either way, I went on to absolutely spank this mini-boss I found inside of the dungeon. I then made my way back over to Skeletron's dungeon, only to find out that the kids in his basement had crawled out. And upon turning into Anakin Skywalker, I summoned in the lunatic cultist. It was a fairly easy boss fight, and I was able to banish Squidward back to the Shadow Realm. After destroying the lunatic cultist, I made my way over to the Stardust Pillar, which I absolutely obliterated. I then made my way over to the Solar Flare Pillar, which is normally extremely hard, but with my overpowered weapons, I was able to take it out with ease. Next, I went to the Nebula Pillar, which I yet again absolutely demolished. Lastly, I went and absolutely obliterated the Vortex Pillar. I then waited in great anticipation as all of my hard work, all of my killing, all of my exploring and gathering led up to this moment, the moment in which I would fight the final boss of Terraria. And then, with a flash of light, it was finally time to take on the Moon Lord. The fight was going great at first, as I was dealing tons of damage, and I was dodging most of his attacks. Unfortunately, about halfway through the fight, I got hit by the laser beam from his head, which took almost all of my health away and left me just 1 hit from being dead. As the fight progressed, I continued to try my best to dodge and dealt massive amounts of damage with all of the overpowered weapons I had accumulated through the playthrough. But it wasn't enough. Man, this game.